Hello. So, what's on my mind today is I was thinking about, I've come across in spiritual circles, I've really come across that there's like two separate camps of engaging on a spiritual journey. It feels like people get very separate in this. One is the camp of this is my spiritual journey, my spiritual awakening. There are no teachers, there are no gurus. You have all the answers inside of you, and you trust yourself. And then the second camp is often the camp of I have a guru, I have a teacher. This person is going to pull me into fully awakenedness or enlightenment or whatever you want to call it. This person is the one that's going to get me through this in this lifetime or in as many lifetimes as it takes, that they are going to take me through, and they are the ones that I go to for that. And what I find really interesting is that oftentimes it's like people have either one or the other, and there isn't something that kind of bridges both of them, which is, how do I put this? It's a little difficult, I think. Not a little difficult. I think it's a more difficult path to try to do one or the other. And I want to talk a little bit about how both actually, having both sides, both paths, can actually be the one that is ultimately the most supportive for us, potentially. You let me know what you think at the end of the video. So let me go to this first camp first, which is, the answers are inside of you. Don't trust anyone out there. Don't trust a teacher out there. Don't even look to a teacher out there. Look just within you. And you have the answers. And I cannot tell you how much I come across that. So the beauty of that path is stepping into a place of adulthood in a way to say, hey, I really need to be conscious of my journey. I need to cultivate the elements that I need in order to navigate my spiritual growth, my spiritual awakening, that I really need to put in the effort, that I really need to do my shadow work, my psychological work, my integrative work, my practices. It's like there's a process that's happening, and I need to really take responsibility for this, for myself. And it's actually, there's a real beauty in it, because the intention behind is I'm doing the work, I'm looking at my ego patterns, I'm looking at my blockages, I'm looking at all of my things that are here, that are blocking me, that are keeping me. I am doing my practices. I am really in this process. And the truth is, on one level, it's like, yes, you aren't falling if you're in this path. You're not falling for you're not giving away your inner authority in that way to another being, another human on this planet, for example. Because how many times have we heard about somebody who has realized a lot, and they are looked upon as a teacher, as a guru, and really, even though they have cultivated so much to have had a huge following, on the other hand, they didn't catch everything and they created messes. So the beauty of it is having a sense of self-responsibility and inner authority, which is really, really, I believe it's really important for the spiritual journey to have that. It's really, really important. The other side of that, of the same coin, is what happens in the spiritual journey is that the more we awaken, the more we excavate and go towards our real selves, our true selves, the more our woundedness arises. So, in terms of our woundedness, the more our woundedness arises, but a lot of times our consciousness isn't developed. It isn't developed to have enough awareness of the wounds that are coming up. I hope this is not too abstract, but like our bodies, stored in our bodies, is every single experience we've had in our lives, in a way. Every wound, every hurt we've experienced, as well as every experience of richness is also somewhere in our bodies. And when we start to connect deeper and deeper into ourselves, our wounds are going to get excavated. And what I have found is that there are people claiming to have awakened, and they claim that the journey is pretty easy and that it was really fast. But the trouble is that their awareness is not cultivated to the extent where they are able to feel, to know, to recognize, to work through wounds. And I'll just give an example. We may have a wound going as far back as when we entered the womb. Or it could be, a past life, for example. But we may have wounds that are in the womb that our conscious mind has no awareness of this. And our awareness isn't sensitive enough to catch it. Now, say this wound comes up, right? And we don't have the awareness to even recognize, oh, it's coming up. We just feel untrusting, not trusting of the world, for example. We start to feel like, oh, I can't trust anybody. And it could be a deep wound coming up. And then, we kind of logicalize, say, give ourselves some affirmations and say, hey, you know what? This is a trusting world. I can trust everybody. We feel better, right? We can feel better. But the wound is still there, and it may submerge. deeper in our bodies, which can then create either emotional or physical disturbances. And it's happening in a not so conscious level. So we don't know, maybe 10 years down the line, we come down with something that we didn't have, you know. So we come down with an illness, for example, cancer, something like that. So, so that's one of the things that can happen. The other thing that can happen is that as deeper wounds arise, I think as we open up more, the other thing that can happen is that we can have a very subtle but distorted perception. So, people say, trust yourself, right? You have all the answers inside of you. Beautiful, true. But who is going to be there to mirror our distortions back to us when we can't see them clearly? When they are so subtle? And they're the parts of us that are wounded and hurt, and we think we're really empowered and doing the right thing, but we may actually be playing out an old trauma, for example. We may be playing out an old trauma from a childhood in present day, but we may not connect it. So playing out an old trauma, I'm trying to think of an example. I'll try saying. Let's see what this is like. So say we have a history of sexual abuse in childhood, and we start to feel really empowered by being sexually promiscuous. I still don't know if anybody uses promiscuous anymore, but really sexually active with multiple partners. Not to make it a judgment call, but still in a way that's kind of robbing us rather than empowering us, robbing us from really our own connection to our authentic soul and being and value. I mean, it could work out in that way, for example. The other point of view, let's go to the other point of view, which is when people, the other camp. Sorry, before I go on to the other camp. So it can be really helpful to have a teacher, to have somebody whose awareness, who has the awareness to help us to feel, to recognize what is being excavated on our awakening journey. And let me tell you, it's going to happen if you're really on it. It's going to excavate, and it's not going to be easy. Okay? And there are going to be distortions. That's just how it works. So it can be really helpful to have a teacher, a guide to support us, to help us when we're in the midst of incredible distortions that we can't see, to see them. It can be really helpful to have support and guidance, to have a community with us who is also going through, if not the same, but different issues, different challenges, so that we know, oh my gosh, it's not just me, and that it happens to a lot of us. Okay, take a sip of water. Let's talk about the other camp. The other camp of I have a teacher, I have a guru, this person, this awakened being is going to guide me, help me, support me, give me all the practices and everything that I need in order to make it. And oh, so beautiful. Really, you know, it's got its own beauty to have that faith, to have that devotion. Really, mostly, I would say, in my understanding, what they do is that we receive empowerments, or what I may call as transmissions. So, for example, you know, I may have, for example, I may have grown up in an environment where I never really experienced feeling compassion and kindness. Never felt like my hurt got seen, and that I received the balm of compassion, of kindness. And I meet a teacher, and they have it. They said, you know, I received the transmission of compassion from them. And suddenly now my heart, I am in their presence, and my heart is opened to compassion. And for the first time, I am in tears, really, like tears for myself and everything that I've experienced in my life. Tears for love for myself again, like just this care that I felt like I've always needed but never really quite received. And maybe then that expands to feeling and noticing, oh my gosh, this world mostly is devoid of this care, this compassion, this kindness. And now I can feel my heart and loving and feeling compassionate and kind towards this immensity of this world and all the people suffering. So that's an example of the beauty of going to see a teacher, a guru, somebody who's an awakened person, much more awakened than say I am being, or awakened in a different way. And really, really beautiful. The flip side of that is that sometimes we're delegating away the responsibility for ourselves. We don't develop it's like we keep going for transmission after transmission after transmission. And we feel like that's the path. This is it. I'm going to awaken, and I'm going to awaken, and I'm going to awaken until it kind of all catches up to us. It's a similar process where awakening, spiritual growth is going to bring up immense wounds. It's going to excavate the feeling of compassion. Yes, we touched into it, and it's going to excavate a deeper wound related with it. For example, So a lot of times we don't end up doing that work, the psychological integration. We're not we're not doing that work. Sometimes we're also not really putting in the effort to um, tame our egos, because when we're around somebody who is, a, a powerhouse of transmitters, we ride on that wave. That the transmission of the quality is what is working on us, is what is allowing us to release our wounds, our hurts, our emotional wounds, our hurts, for example. And we may end up finding, oh my gosh, I just saw this person for an hour and something in me is forever changed, right? Sometimes people say that they have this experience and they're like, oh my gosh, I completely let go of something. Occasionally that happens, but most of the people that I know are not people who go for an hour and then you're done, right? We go over and over and over, and we keep seeking those experiences. We get transmission after transmission after transmission, variety of transmissions all at the same time. So much that we get. Of course, it's wonderful. So much. It really speeds up our spiritual growth journey. Really, really speeds it up. But who is coming in to do all the cleanup? Who is coming in and paying attention to, oh my gosh, am I paying attention to what is happening with my ego? Am I paying attention to slowing down a little bit with the ego? I didn't have to make the effort to do all of that, right? To get that transmission of compassion and kindness. There was no effort to a certain extent. I practiced, but the field was so rich. I didn't really get to have my ego. It almost feels like I bypassed my ego's defenses. And what the ego is, I should define what the ego is. The ego is actually what gets created every time we lose access to our real selves. Any aspect of our real selves, our ego gets created. So the ego could be, for example, this is difficult to think in the moment. I'll try to finish my thought and then come back. So the ego gets kind of like the transmission. It doesn't quite bypass the ego, but it's like, in a way, bypasses our ego's defenses sometimes. And the quality works us, which is beautiful. Again, really great way of working. It really speeds up our spiritual growth and awakening. But what happens is that maybe I'm not so aware of my ego patterns, and if I come back to the trusting thing, so maybe my ego doesn't trust, right? Maybe there was an experience that I had in the womb or in early childhood where I felt like, let's say early childhood, where I felt like maybe I was crying in the crib and nobody came. Maybe they were like trying to do some kind of schedule with me and training me in the crib as a baby. and nobody came, and I cried. So now I don't have basic trust. I don't have trust that what I need will come, that there is that when I'm in distress, that there is care and love and attention, and that what I need will come. So say that's my ego pattern. And what happens is, as I receive different transmissions, different things, and I experience the benefit of having experienced compassionate love, having experienced soft love, having experienced sweet love, having experienced peacefulness, having experienced joy, having experienced passion. So these are the different transmissions, affect of different transmissions. What happens when this wound comes up? This wound that my conceptual mind doesn't know about, because it happened before I had a conceptual mind. I was just a baby. It requires a level of awareness, again, just like the first camp. It requires a level of awareness that I can connect, even. I can see that this distrusting, what may feel like paranoia in my adulthood, is actually related with being left in the crib crying. If I am not seeing, processing, integrating, releasing these things that come up, what's going to happen is that my ego is going to become more defensive. It's going to become more rigid. It's going to become more resistant. And because I haven't, there's something about, I have attributed my awakening, my spiritual journey to some other person. Maybe I haven't been paying attention to how my ego is taking over. Maybe I'm not even aware how my ego shows up, what it is. Ego is not just, in Indian culture, somebody has a big ego. It's pride or something like that. This can be very subtle. It can be loud but subtle at the same time. So it can be very tricky, I think, to attribute the responsibility of our spiritual growth on another being without taking some element of, I have to tame my own ego. I have to become aware of my wounds that are arising. Otherwise, maybe I have tons of anxiety, as an adult, and I don't know why I have anxiety. I've been doing my spiritual work for a decade or 2 decades or 3 or 4 decades, but I have so much anxiety. Why is that? It could be, and maybe it's even increased. It could be that there are wounds that have been coming up and we don't know what to do with them, and we're not recognizing them, and we don't know where our ego is and how our ego is reacting to everything that's coming up. So really, it's really helpful to have the camps come together. We do our part of the work, which we're responsible for, and we receive the support of somebody, of a being, of a teacher, of a guide, of somebody who is there, who understands the journey, who offers us transmissions that, speed up our growth, our process. So we're not, getting lost, getting disconnected, having our openings really be lost, because that happens. Sometimes that happens. We have so many openings, and it's like, my gosh, I'm at the top of this world. Everything is so beautiful, and the next thing we know, we can't even access that, a hint of that anymore. That beauty, that silence, that whatever it is that we connected with. All right. I hope this video was helpful. Questions, comments are welcomed, and even disagreements. I would say, if you have a lot of disagreements and questions, maybe this video didn't speak to you. But also, maybe schedule a session with me and we can connect about your experience. All right. Again, best wishes. Oh my gosh, this video was very long. Bye.